Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We just started recording. We do have a very special guest with us today, my little niece, JoJo. If she starts crying, you'll have to give me a moment to give her back to her mommy. But she wants to learn all she can about design because she's going to be a designer when she grows up, obviously, just like her aunt. So I'm going to go ahead and start screen sharing and we'll take a look at the work. Okay. All right. Let me get to our Basecamp. Okay, Molly. So I know that you had, and I think your posts are way down here.
Yeah, I uploaded them all at once last night.
way then.
Yeah,
Okay.
they
All
honestly,
right.
they should be the
There
last
we
ones. Yeah.
go. So here's your pin board. Did you discover anything while you were pinning these assets?
Yeah, honestly, it's the same building in all of them, which I didn't know what it was at the beginning when I did my first pins, but it's
Mm-hmm.
part of an amusement park that's a big
Oh,
tourist attraction there.
oh
So
wow.
I noticed that was in a lot of the illustrations. And then
Yeah.
along with that
This
building,
one?
there's just a lot of bright colors. Yeah, that one.
Oh, wow. Cool. So I'm definitely seeing some color themes. Does that affect the color choices that you're going to make this week?
Likely, yes. A lot of
Great.
blues and reds and oranges, things like that.
Okay. Let me pull back over here. So, what did you discover when you started making your mind map? Did you think it would turn out one way, and then did you discover new paths you didn't know existed for Barcelona?
I kind of from the jump had an idea of what I wanted the mind map to be, which was just the three categories of
Mm-hmm.
traditions and geography and culture. But in terms of what those categories would consist of, I really had no knowledge of Barcelona, really, besides the fact that they have a strong art history there of a lot of artists living there for short periods of time. So
Gotcha.
that's really all I knew about it
Okay.
before.
Yeah. Okay. And tell me a little bit about Andrea. I see that she's a little young. Why did you decide to go with a 28-year-old?
Um, I kind of just for the buyer persona, I just refreshed the pictures,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got her picture and I kind of based it off of like what I assume her age would be
Mm-hmm.
and her interests and things like that. So I built it around someone who like recently graduated college kind of and was like wanting to take a vacation post going to college. So that's what I kind of based her buyer persona around.
I do always, I would like to see if you can kind of prove it with a little bit of
Okay.
research. I always say, think about what your location requires in age. So,
Okay.
if it's a really out of the way location in Asia that requires hiking to get there and it's
Mm-hmm.
very active, then your
Okay.
demographic just can't be an older person. It's
Right.
definitely going to have to be a younger person. I've talked a little bit about Greece. When you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking about a buyer persona for Greece, it's very expensive to fly to Greece. And the average tourist spends $150 a day there. So you have to be
Oh,
able to afford $150 a day plus the outrageous airfare. And that's if you just want a regular vacation, not, like a luxury vacation. A luxury vacation in
right.
Greece is about $15,000. So, I always ask people when they're doing their buyer personas, when I'm working with clients, I say, I want you to close your eyes and envision a group of people that if they disappeared, your business would go under.
Oh, okay.
And so, because a lot of people say, oh, my buyer is everybody. I want everybody to buy this. Well, you only have a limited amount of marketing dollars to spend. Are you
Right.
going to spend them on people who are unlikely to travel? Are you going to spend them on 4-year-olds? Are you going to spend them on 80-year-olds? Are you going to spend them on people who make $22,000 a year?
Mm.
If you're trying to get them to travel, you know, probably not, right? And so the same with the buyer persona. Understand who the audience really is, how much money they actually have, and even what ethnicity for different locations. Different ethnicities travel to different locations for different reasons. So I'm not saying that your buyer persona is wrong. I'm just saying I want you to prove to me your buyer persona is right. Does that make sense?
Okay.
All right. But a good start. Good start. Okay. All right. I'm starting to see your mood board come together for Barcelona. Do you want to tell us about the visual direction that your research is leading you in?
Yeah. The bottom or the middle the bottom middle picture was one of the traditions of people dressed sort of like in a devil costume and shooting off fireworks.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought that picture was really colorful and it matched the other, you know, I'm seeing a lot of reds and oranges and blues. So I think I want to keep it pretty bright. And then the monument on the right is the one in the amusement park in Barcelona. So I think I'll base it around some of those traditions and tourist areas.
Great. Yeah, I'm starting to see a visual theme come together. I look forward to seeing where you go. Cool. All right. In your Friday assignment, we already looked at your Pinterest account. So let's take a look at Reagan's work. And it might be easier just to find you this way. Did you guys know I can do this to you?
Oh, that's not me.
Oh, wrong Reagan. Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's R-H-E-A.
A-G-A.
R-H-E-A.
R-H?
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I love this. Okay. All right. And you haven't posted anything, Molly, right, into this week's board yet?
For week 2, I haven't posted anything yet.
Good. I didn't want to skip. I didn't want to miss your work if you'd already taken a look at it. Okay. So, Reagan, I'm going to sneeze. Whew. Sorry. They usually come in pairs. So, let's take a look. And we've talked about this already, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Have we? Yes.
Yeah, we have.
Have we talked about this?
No.
Okay, I'm going to go and click on it. So tell me a little bit about, and kind of similar to Molly, a little bit about your buyer and why you think that this is the right person. And do you have any research to prove it?
I was looking at the type of people that travel there. There were statistics online.
Yes.
And it said that most of them were millennials, and then there were some that were in their 30s and 40s.
Perfect. So. And tell me about your location and how you may be different than, say, Greece. Why do you think the traveler is younger, even though younger people typically have less and spend less?
I just feel like it's a very youthful place, like the culture is.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people that are young are attracted to it.
Sure. And so it's kind of a little bit about what we were just saying earlier. If you're going to travel to Busan, that's your location, right? Are you Busan?
Yep.
Okay. So if you're going to travel to Busan, you know the climate, it's probably going to be humid when you go, right? Mm-hmm. You know, it's definitely going to require a lot of walking on foot, a lot of, in a way, bravery, the kind of bravery I don't think my own parents in their late 50s would have, you know, getting into a rickety cab, you know, attempting to speak the local language, in a language, you know, unlike, say, some of the more popularized destinations like France, most Americans know at least 5 words in French, you know, give or take. And I'm not saying that's a actual stat, but everybody knows bonjour and oui. You know, I couldn't tell you right now how to say yes or no in South Korea. So it's definitely going to take a different, more physically fit even type of traveler. And then, of course, a traveler who's not afraid to overcome challenges and obstacles. I would definitely say somebody going to Busan, unlike possibly somebody going to Greece, isn't looking to be spoon-fed the culture. They're going to go get the culture. They're going to go find the culture. And they're going to have to because of the nature of the location. So right. Good. She seems a little gamey. I would be curious if you also added in something a little bit cultural, if that makes sense. So yeah, because if you're traveling to Busan, you're not going to Busan just to sit on your PlayStation. So like, what else? If you're thinking about brands that influence this woman from the perspective of the business, you're trying to think about things that she is attracted to visually. And so if you're thinking about an aesthetic quality, I could see some branches from PS5 and Twitch and such that are going to work on her. But think about, I was telling somebody else Friday who their person is going to Morocco, right? I was saying this woman probably shops at Trader Joe's and World Market, right? She's interested in that eclectic, artisan, imperfect on purpose pottery kind of feel. And so knowing that person, visits and shops at those locations helps you understand the aesthetic qualities your person is interested in. Now, what I will say about including these is I would definitely think your person would want a sans serif font. Do you know what that means?
Yep.
So I don't want to be condescending or anything, but we have people from a number of different major backgrounds, and I don't remember who's who. So I don't want to assume what you know. So I would definitely say you're looking at brights, and I would definitely say based on this that you're looking at sans serif type fonts. So I would dig just a little deeper onto the cultural aspects. Not everybody is going to travel to Asia, right? So people, and those who are traveling to Asia who aren't going to say your more well-known locations like Tokyo or Beijing, you're going to have to really dig deep on what's culturally attracting them. So they don't end up going to Tokyo. They do end up going to Busan, right? All right, next, let's take a look at your, so I'm definitely seeing a theme in your imagery. Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Just lots of like pastel pinks, blues, and
yeah.
purple.
I definitely saw in your Pinterest that pastels were just very vibrant in the city. On the color end, I would say you're close, but not quite there, right? The color is a little leaving pastel and going into gray for your purple, if that makes sense. I do think maybe revisiting the color scheme today and increasing the contrast. So your Busan, South Korea, next to this purple, they're starting to not have enough contrast for one or the other to pop. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
To visually pop out.
I was wondering about that, actually.
What?
I was wondering about that, but...
Oh, yeah. So I'm not sure if you were in the session we've already done where we used Kuler. Do you remember that? So it's not Kuler anymore, but if you type in Kuler, that's what it was called when I was in college, so that's the only way I remember it. I think it's adobe.color. Oh, color.adobe. Here we go. But Kuler is the slang term a lot of graphic designers my age use because it used to be Kuler before Adobe bought it out. So I love Kuler. And the thing is, making color schemes just off of your head, for some people that works great. Other people, not so much. I don't just come up with colors out of my head. I might come up with one color, and then I'll go find that color and find accompanying colors to it and then edit from there. Does that make sense? So I often start with a tool like Adobe Color or even Pinterest sometimes. And then the nice thing about Adobe Color is you can type in keywords. So just as a sample, I'm going to type in happy. And you can see all of these really rich prefabricated color schemes. Like, this is great if you're working with children. This is great if you're working with adults. Like, this is a great neutral for, so it's a little summary. So you could start with a color scheme like this and just capture it or write down the hex codes, or get into this. Honestly, I just usually screen cap it and drop it in. But you can also type in occasionally, depending on how strange or remote your location is. Sometimes you can type in places. So let's just try Busan. Is it Busan?
Mm-hmm.
And see if anything pops out. So a little, this is Busan, but a little, I think, too saturated. But I really like the base colors. So I would go into this color scheme, screen cap it, drop it into Illustrator, and just start editing the colors from there, knowing, okay, I'm going to have a nice bright pink. Might keep this blue as it is to kind of be a base, more subtle tone. And I'm really going to lighten these colors to make them more pastel, make this more pastel, and drop the middle one. And that's how I would probably develop a color scheme. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Based on the visual references that you had on Pinterest. So as I'm scrolling through, I might say, okay, that's my favorite. The rest of these, I get it, but not quite right. This one is quite reminiscent of what you're working with, but needs some editing. So you might say, okay, this orange needs to be a little bit more pastel. This green needs to be a lot lighter because it's kind of vibrating. Do you see how these two colors just do not work well together?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of vibrating in the middle. It's hard to look at. So I'd pull this pastel way down. I would pull this into a slightly also lighter, more pastel shade. I would keep this. It's always good to have one dark base color and then make this a super light for when you need a background. So you can also just type in keywords like South Korea. Is that how you spell Korea? I hope. No, it is not. Is it?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, well, it's probably because I had the lowercase k. And see if any of those work. And so when we typed in Busan versus South Korea, you can see this doesn't look anything like what you've pinned, right? This one a little bit. This one a little bit. And this one actually looks really, really awesome. Except I would probably edit a couple of these to be more pastel and maybe this one to be more pastel. And so I could take your Pinterest account, absorb those colors and what they mean to that location, and then go find a color scheme to work on top of. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And you can invent your own color schemes, obviously, like if you want to. I just don't usually bother, honestly. They're out there, they're ready to use. I love this like for a bank, and I would turn this gold, and then boom, done. I can start working. Because I've already done the research, I've already done the mind map, and I've already done image collecting, and I know what colors I'm looking for. I don't have to sit and tweak them from zero. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And so you've gotten started with your color scheme. I think we've talked this to death, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would take the notes I just gave you. I think you're closer, but these two colors don't work with the scheme, right? So these colors are fun for your location, based on kind of what we were looking at. These two colors, I know why you put them in there, but visually they won't mesh. So this is where the logic of the location, and the meaning of the colors and the location makes sense, but as a color scheme, they're not visually succinct. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would definitely take a look at Kueller, or I would go back to Pinterest, and you can type in like for banks it's really easy, but for Korean graphic design it's a little bit more difficult. But you can still look at color palettes. Oh, that's lovely for Busan, honestly. Like, that's not Busan, but that would be a really stellar color scheme for you with a few minor edits. And I can see here where you're already heading that direction, and this just cleans it up a little bit more. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So super close, super close. And then your Friday assignment, we'll just take a look at real quick. I think we've already seen it. Yeah. So we've seen it. So I would say you're on track. Just clean it up and really assess both the meaning behind the colors and the aesthetic value, if that makes sense. Because I see where you got the colors, right? That now they just have to feng shui. Is that cool?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing if I can stop share. All right, now I can see you guys again. Oh. For some reason I couldn't see I like looking at you guys as I talk to you, but your little pictures disappeared. Maybe because it's on record and it won't record you while it's recording the screen. So before we log off for the day, do you guys have any questions or any thoughts before you head into kind of finalizing those color schemes?
I feel like we went over well.
Yeah. Did I talk you to death? I feel like I did. Color is important, okay? I'm a graphic designer. If I can't talk about color for 20 minutes, I mean, what am I even doing here? So, and then, you know, the grading for the logos and the brochures is going to be a little bit tougher. Molly's used to my tough grading. But if you have any questions, that's fine. And then if you're unhappy with your grade, which I don't know why you would be unhappy, because I'm sure it'll be fine. You guys are working really hard, and I appreciate the effort that you're putting into your work during this global crisis. You can turn it in again. So don't worry about that. Any questions?
Would you like me to tweak my buyer persona and re-upload?
I'd like you
to for like next time.
Think about it some more.
Okay.
Because the reason the buyer personas are so important to graphic designers is because as you're working on, say, a logo or a brochure, and let's say your buyer persona is Karen, you imagine to yourself, would Karen like this logo? And if the answer is no, you're going the wrong direction for your primary buyer, right? So I've done a environmental brand where it was a nonprofit environmental education agency. I was working on a campaign for them, and my buyer persona was, and she doesn't know this, it was all based on Christina Arnold. So the whole thing, like in my mind, I was like, she's the right age, she's the right type of occupation, she's the right income level, she's the right knowledge level, she's the right political affiliation. She just is the person that this environmental group is going after for potential volunteers and donors and ambassadors. Mm-hmm. And so as I was working on everything for them, I would think, would Christina Arnold like this? And if the answer was no, I was like, okay, I'm not doing it right. Like, would Christina Arnold like these colors? Would Christina Arnold like this photography? And it works really well. And so I was working on another brand, and their core demographic for this little shop was teachers. And my mom is a second grade teacher. And when you envision in your mind, and this is Kentucky, and the shop's in Kentucky, envision in your mind for a moment a second grade teacher. What are they like right now? Well, you know, they definitely have their initials embroidered in a circle on something. Probably a lot of things. They probably like bold patterns and bright colors. And I'm talking elementary school teacher, because that's what they work with all the time. So as I was working on it, I would think, you know, would my mom like this? Would my mom like this? Because it doesn't matter if I like it, because I don't. Like, I work on a lot of brands. I appreciate the outcome of the design, but personally it doesn't appeal to me. But I'm not the right buyer. I'm not a second grade teacher. I don't care for polka dots or chevron or my initials with a big G in the middle. That doesn't appeal to me, but that really, really, really appeals to young elementary school teachers. And so it's more, your buyer persona is more about divorcing your personal self and your personal feelings from the brand, and making the brand really appeal to the target demographic that you're going to be working with, right? And it's hard. It's hard because their colors, like, I hate the color yellow. Like, I hate it. If it's going to be yellow, it's got to be like a mustard or like a goldenrod. I hate like a bright primary yellow. Like, it bothers me to look at it. Like, I hate it so bad. I will not wear anything neon yellow unless I'm exercising, like, and it's for safety. But there are brands I've worked with where yellow is one of their core colors, and I just hate it. And I know it looks good from an outside perspective, and that's fine, right? So that's kind of my feelings on why the buyer persona is so necessary. Anything else before we sign off? Well, thank you guys so much for showing up and getting feedback, and again working during the middle of the worst global crisis that we've had in all three of our lifetimes. Yeah. And her first year of life. So Joanna says bye, and Joanna says thank you for working so hard, and Aunt Kara, will see you Wednesday. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Call me if you need me. Bye.
Bye.